welcome. You're joining us on NewsX Influencer A-List. Now, this weekend, we are bringing you two influencers who are helping us travel the world vicariously through their Instagram handles. Radhika Sharma and Ivana Perkovic are the epitome of living their life like free birds, and we have had the opportunity to get a sneak peek into their horizons. Let's listen in to this enthralling conversation.
She's a diver, explorer, and backpacker.
Now I'm focusing on YouTube, creating videos on travel and trying to help people who are really looking to do budget travel and get into adventures and all sorts of stuff.
Her content shows you how to really explore.
I'm at least consistent and posting weekly, but at times I miss posting, but then I try my best doing so.
NewsX Influencer A-List proudly recognizes Radhika Sharma for influence in travel content creation.
Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX Influencer A-List. I'm Arti Krishnan. With me, I have Radhika Sharma, who is a travel content creator. Now, she has created content traveling around the world, and she does this full time. Let's invite her and understand how she does it all. Thank you for joining us, Radhika. Now, firstly, tell us about your travel experience and how you got into content creation.
So I was actually working full-time. I worked full-time for 3.5 years in a corporate setup. I was a business research analyst, but that kind of job wasn't working well for me. So I quit my job back in 2018, started doing YouTube and Instagram full-time. And it has been a very interesting journey. It has been, I've been able to explore so much because of this and traveled outside. Of course, COVID came and there was like a huge full stop and a huge halt in it. But yeah, this has been majorly my journeys. And now I'm focusing on YouTube, creating videos on travel and trying to help people who are really looking to do budget travel and get into adventures and all sorts of stuff.
That's interesting, Radhika. So one thing I wanted to ask you was, since you said that you're doing content creation full time, right? There must also be the stress of having to put out content, regularly and keep your, social media calendar going. When that happens, how do you then manage it while also traveling? So do you then record a bunch of things when you're traveling and then you put them out, or how does that work?
So I try to manage both the things. So Instagram is usually on the go, so it's not that difficult. You can post everything on the go, but YouTube takes a lot of effort because it is a long format content. So you have to shoot a lot and you have to spend at least a day or two in editing. So right now I'm actually looking to expand my team and hire a couple of people, hopefully, who can edit videos for me. But for now, what I do is I try to manage my weekend in such a way that, let's say, if I'm traveling 4 days, then at least there are 2 days of break in between and I can sit in some hotel or in my Airbnb and, focus on editing and that storyline. And if it's a long-term travel, then I plan my videos or edit it well in advance so that I'm at least consistent and posting weekly. But at times I miss posting, but then I try my best doing so.
Okay, Radhika, why don't you tell us one of your best travel experiences?
So I can talk about my recent travel. Actually, I went to Maldives on my birthday, and it was such a wonderful experience because the dive center whom I dived with, their name is FOODIE, and we had an underwater birthday celebration where they took me underwater and opened the happy birthday, card, and there were sharks all around and manta rays and stingrays. So it was amazing. And then I came back to my hotel and the hotel people decorated the entire room and everything. So that was something very special, which the locals of Maldives organized for me. And this was very recent and my first international trip after 2 years because of all the COVID and everything. So, yeah.
Speaking about your Maldives trip, you also posted about it, talking about, traveling with a budget, and also doing something that's not usually done, things like exploring the culture of where you travel, and meeting the locals, trying to learn their culture, trying to see how their day-to-day life works. So how do you then find these things out and then explore them? And tell us how you work. How does the process work?
So it takes a lot of research, to be honest, watching other people online. And especially, it's very important to watch the right people online and who are doing similar kind of work, and you can resonate with their form of travel, or you watch YouTube videos, or you read a lot of articles. And once you're reading about it, you get to know so much about the place. For example, Maldives, since we're talking about it, is divided into two set of categories: local islands and resort islands. And of course, resort island is a wonderful experience, but then experiencing the local culture and local life of Maldives is something very different, and something which hardly people talk about, because of course you get to see how locals are living over there. Plus, you can also do budget travel. You don't have to necessarily spend a lakh or 2 lakhs to stay for one night in Maldives. So that was something very unique, and I really wanted to experience it along with the diving site of Maldives. So yeah, a lot of research is one thing that helps.
Talking about another aspect of travel, Radhika, traveling as a woman, there are some things that you need to keep in mind. There are some things that you need to consider. At the same time, the fear of traveling alone shouldn't restrict a woman. You should be able to explore and be just as adventurous as anybody else. So, what would you have to say on that?
My solo traveling was a very slow beginning. I started with my first solo trip to Sikkim. So like any other person, I googled online to find the safest states in India where a woman can travel solo, and Sikkim was on the top of that list. So I thought of going solo, and especially I went to Sikkim alone because none of my friends at that time was willing to tag along with me. So, and I really had that itch to travel somewhere. So I just left, packed my bags, and I did so many mistakes. I remember I booked wrong hotels, did not plan it properly, spent so much money because of my bad planning. But it was a learning for me, and slowly I grew as a traveler also, because then I understood that how I can manage better and how I can book better, plan better. And yeah, then I went to Italy. That was another solo international trip. And it's basically about practice, because once you are out, you know how you can plan better. Like couch surfing was something which I got to know about and tried it in Italy. And few of the tips that I want to give my fellow travelers, especially females, is something that you should not be afraid. Of course, it scares a lot of people that how the world is outside, because we are perceived that the world is a scary place because of all the news and everything we read. But once people are out, once you go out, you get to realize that people are actually very nice and the world is beautiful, and you just have to be confident. You just need to walk like you know that place. Don't walk like you are so lost and you don't know about that place. And if you are confident, that people who want to approach you with ill feelings might think twice, and that will give you an edge to walk confidently in that place. And yeah, then slowly and slowly you'll learn a couple of tricks here and there, and then you're just good to go.
Radhika, then tell us about, traveling alone in India, because a lot of people have the perception that traveling alone in India for a woman especially is not safe. But you have extensively traveled in India, and you've portrayed how you can enjoy yourself, in fact, and how you can explore as a woman. So what would you say about that?
So for me, there are a couple of tricks that I will tell you people that girls should do. One is, like I said before, you need to be very confident when you're going to a place. So one is that. Second is doing a lot of research to know about the place. For example, while booking an Airbnb, I read reviews online, whether this place is nice and how is the environment like. I read Airbnb's reviews, because if the reviews are not great, then it's one of the things is not to go over there. And good part about being online and researching online is that now you can see pictures. So I saw a lot of pictures to see if this place fits in my vibe. Then did a lot of research to commute from one place to another, how I can do about it. So research plays a lot of role, a big role of it. And then the third part is to have a local contact with yourself. For example, if I'll go to Kashmir, I have a couple of friends over there who can help me. And then there are so many YouTubers now and so many travel bloggers who give local contacts of that particular place. And you can rely on that information because that particular person has already been there and been in touch with that person and has written that review on the basis of their personal recommendation. So you can pick all of these things, get in touch with the local who can help you if you are in some kind of problem, so that if something happens, then that person can have your back. If you are going on a trek, that person will know that, you are on a trek, and if you're not back in, let's say, 3 to 4 days, then they have to find you, or they need to, get back to that local person, the local contact, so that they can help you in some kind of problem.
So how do you then come about these deals? Do you first travel there and then figure out that this is the best way, this is the best deal, and then you post it, or do you then do extensive research first and then try out various deals and then come to the conclusion?
So I think I have changed as a traveler also. Initially, I used to do a lot of research because I was very new into this. So I used to watch a lot of videos or look for, like, one of the ways to find cheaper hotels is go to booking.com, put a filter of that price filter, and you'll get the cheapest options. I used to do all of that, and I had like a budget in my head, and I had to manage in that particular budget, like a weekend trip in 3,000 rupees or something of that sort. But now I have shifted to long format kind of travel, where I like to stay in a particular place for a month and, soak in that place properly, visit it slowly, like a slow kind of travel. So now I don't do that much research. I just reach a particular state or place, and then I see how to go about it or how to explore. So now it's basically a whole new spectrum of travel. But because of COVID, many people are getting into this kind of travel also, long format travel, and it's nice to see that they are trying to find workstations, doing work from mountains. So it's a mix of both the things for me right now.
Right, that's interesting that you brought it out. Do you think that a long vacation, or a long travel, a slow format travel, like you said, is better than doing those quick vlogs or quick travels that most people or most YouTubers were accustomed to before? What would you prefer?
Yeah. Now I'll prefer slow travel for sure, because I have realized that you get to know so much about that place, plus you are not impacting so much individually, as in your lifestyle or your body or your food habits are changing constantly when you're doing fast travel. But when you're in a particular place, your body is resting out, and you're seeing that place slowly and nicely and getting to know about that place better. I have the luxury to do this because I'm doing this full time, so I can do this, but not everyone can do this. People are working 9 to 5 and have their day jobs. So for them, I understand. But for me personally, I will prefer slow travel.
Right. All right, Radhika, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your experiences, sharing your thoughts and insights on travel itself. Kudos and all the best to you.
Thank you so much.
An explorer, foodie, and free spirit.
No matter what you go through in that trip, will definitely teach you new things about yourself that you never would have learned if you would have traveled with other people.
She's a connoisseur of experiences.
When you are a woman traveling alone in India, very often people will just adopt you like you're their own daughter.
NewsX influencer A-list proudly recognizes Ivana Perkovic for influence in travel content creation.
Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX Influencer A-List. I'm Aarti Krishnan. I have with me Ivana Perkovic, who's in fact a travel content creator who's going to talk to us about her journey and how it is being a woman who's traveling around the world. Ivana, firstly, tell us about all the things that you do. You in fact juggle a lot of things. You are multi-talented. Tell us about all of the things you juggle along with content creation.
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity to talk about that. I am actually a storytelling workshop organizer. Next to being a content creator, I am a public speaker with a TED Talk that has over 500,000 views, and I am also an international business consultant.
All right, that's great. So how do you then, divide your time? How do you divide your time from content creation and then also doing the other things that you do that are probably your day job or your extracurriculars?
So I am a hardcore productivity freak. In the past, that has worked very much against me, but in due time, I have actually learned how to manage it in a healthy way, which means that I love to work in time blocks. So whenever I am doing content creation, for instance, I know I have to finish a video before Wednesday, I will block a few hours of my time on Monday and Tuesday for that activity. And then, for instance, the afternoon hours will be blocked for other activities. But I am not a huge fan of multitasking at all. Actually, I just don't do multitasking because it really loses, you lose your focus while you are like juggling too many things at the same time. So my biggest productivity hack has always been to work in time blocks and just focus on one thing at a time.
Wow, that's a great tip for all of us, especially journalists who tend to multitask all the time. Ivana, tell us about being a woman while traveling. There are two aspects of it. One, like we were talking about earlier, it is, traveling alone as a woman, which is, you need to keep some things in mind, but also at the same time, not be too afraid that you're not exploring enough, right? So tell us about these two aspects and how they play into your life.
I think until I was 23 years old, I had never traveled alone in my life, and I was absolutely terrified of it. I thought it was for those super free spirits who are willing to do incredibly adventurous things. And then, like in so many of our lives, I ended a relationship and I was totally in a eat, pray, love state of mind. So I was like, I need to get out there and I need to see more of the world. But then, rightfully, as you mentioned, there are certain things that we have to take into account for as women. So I decided to do something that I now recommend every single woman who wants to travel alone, or at least try it out. Keep it as safe as possible for yourself. So don't go venturing out into the middle of nowhere just because you see other people doing that on Instagram. Look at a trip that would feel safe to you. And for me, that was a trip to Barcelona, a shopping trip during sale time, because all my friends were just busy with their jobs, with their kids. My boyfriend at the time, like obviously we had broken up, so that was not an option. So I decided to go to a city that I've always wanted to visit and, book a luxury hotel, take enough money with me to do shopping, to eat in nice restaurants. I definitely didn't venture out on some kind of mountain top where, I wouldn't know how things would work out. I just kept it as safe as possible for myself. But I can also tell you that is not a guarantee that things will go well, because during that trip, I experienced, honestly, one of my biggest travel nightmares, which is my bank cards all got blocked. Oh. And I didn't know the PIN code of my credit card. So I spent 2 days crying in my hotel room of a 4-day trip, just trying to sort out my finances. Luckily, my brother was there. Luckily, some friends of mine were there. And no matter how traumatic that was, at the same time, it was also an extremely important learning lesson for myself, not just in a practical way to, always keep $100 cash in my travel luggage, to always have bank cards from separate banks, because if one bank decides to block all your bank cards, you still have cards from a different bank. And I actually also, for the first time in my life, learned how Western Union works. Hashtag not sponsored, of course. I'm just a huge fan because at that time, it was the only way that I could get money while being alone abroad, which is something that is honestly at that moment, it's your lifetime. If you don't have money while you're alone abroad as a woman, that's a huge issue. So that situation really taught me a very practical lesson, but at the same time, it also gave me so much self-confidence, because going through it, I just saw myself in a completely new way. I saw myself going through a crisis, trying to figure out solutions. Yes, I was crying 100%, but at the same time, I didn't let panic hold me back from figuring out a solution. And at the end of the day, I did get to do a lot of shopping and eat in nice restaurants on the last day of my trip. So I think the most important thing is, yes, do keep in mind that there are certain things that you have to take into account if you're a woman traveling alone. Like your finances, absolutely non-negotiable. You have to have that in place. But at the same time, no matter what you go through in that trip, will definitely teach you new things about yourself that you never would have learned if you would have traveled with other people. So I think it's also really, really good for your self-confidence. And like I mentioned, keep it as safe as possible for yourself. What I give as an advice to young girls who want to venture out on a solo trip for the first time in their life is to, you can look at simple things like doing a staycation in your own city. You can even venture out to a market for a day on the other side of your town. If you have never been alone, I think that's already adventurous enough. Don't get caught up with Instagram and seeing people do crazy things, because that doesn't always end well, and I don't think that always ends up being fun. So keep it as close to your own needs as possible. that should work out the best.
That's a great point, in fact, Ivana. And you seem like a control freak. Like you said, you're a productivity freak, and you also seem like you want to be in control of things, right? Like you said, there are times when, some things do happen when you're on a trip. There might be mistakes you make, and then you learn from it. But then how do you then let go? And which were the trips that you let go and you thought, one of the best because they were spontaneous? There are also spontaneous plans that happen when you're a traveler, right?
Yeah, I think so, definitely. There are times when you're traveling and things just don't seem to go your way, and you don't understand why. But then when they actually start happening, that is when you will understand that actually the universe is kind of pushing you in a different direction. And I was in Ladakh and staying there for quite a longer period of time. Then a friend of mine decided to just, offer me a seat on a tour company's car who was driving down to Manali. And I was like, okay, I've been in Ladakh now for 6 weeks. It's time for me to get back to civilization. I was offered to take a bike ride through Ladakh, which I had never done before. I will never forget that. That is literally one of my best travel memories ever, because it's a different perspective when you see Ladakh from a bus or a car, or if you're on a motorbike. But yeah, so I think like sometimes things don't seem to be working out, but if you just go with the flow, and that's the biggest lesson, honestly, that travel has taught me, you might end up making the best friends in your life and experiencing the most amazing sights that you otherwise never would have seen. So in that sense, travel really mellowed me down in terms of like control freak, because travel will sometimes force you to slow down, to go into a different direction, to meet new people that you might otherwise not be interested in meeting. But then it turns out to be the best for yourself, and you end up having just the best memories of a lifetime, but also more confidence in life to just let go and go with the flow a little bit more.
Right, Ivana. Now there are, of course, a lot of people who say that India is, not a safe place to travel in. But you have been traveling India for quite some time now. What would you say about that? And you, in fact, have enjoyed yourself. So, what would you say about that?
India is my favorite country in the world, and there are a lot of reasons for that. One of them is that India has this amazing, beautiful sense of community in its DNA. So when you are a woman traveling alone in India, very often people will just adopt you like you're their own daughter. Families, but also, to be honest, even groups of guys, when they see that you are just a chill type of person, and obviously you dress appropriately, they will just adopt you as their sister. So one of my favorite travel memories was when I was with my dad on Diwali in 2018. And I actually met a viewer who I had, never seen before in my life, but she watched my videos. Her name is Kinjo. And we met in real life the day before our train journey. During that meeting, she told me that her whole family was traveling on that same train because it was my dad's first time in India. And he specifically just mentioned one thing that he wanted to do, which was an overnight train ride in India. So I was definitely nervous about that. The next day when we arrived at the train station, we were number 1 and 2 on the waiting list, and we did not get those tickets, which was a problem because it's Diwali, and now I needed to book a flight ticket, and I'm with my dad who is retired. So Kinjo's family not only got us on the train, but they fed us in true Gujarati fashion. We had the best train journey ever. And I can honestly tell you that I have never experienced that anywhere in the world. That sense of a community, that sense of taking care of each other. It's the small things that you actually see in daily life, like calling somebody an uncle, auntie, bhai, didi, even though you're not related. There is a sense of just taking care of each other that I personally can't find that anywhere else in the world. Hence why I also feel very safe traveling in India as a woman. Obviously stating that dress appropriately and behave appropriately with people. But yeah, people adopt you very, very soon and they start taking care of you. So in that sense, I feel India is really a safe country for women to travel solo. I have actually experienced more harassment in Europe than in India.
Thank you so much, Ivana, for joining us and sharing your beautiful memories with us and all your thoughts about traveling. Kudos to you and all the very best.
Thank you so much.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.